You don't know what Andrew's intentions are or motivations are. We can only judge him by what he says. And what he says is there's an enemy. He says he calls it a matrix. And he says that this matrix has
Yeah.
an agenda against humanity. But I don't think my issue with Andrew is I don't think he understands what this enemy is about. I don't think he understands the mechanism that this enemy uses in order to achieve its goals. He thinks he knows, he talks as if he knows, but he's very vague.
I'm going to state this. I think Andrew Tate is more of a net positive for the world than he is a net negative. This is a man that came by and got so popular during a time where we have a male crisis, guys. We live in a world with OnlyFans. We live in a world where women tend to be very promiscuous these days. And it all leads up from the 1970s of birth control, the feminist movement, etc. Right? So when Andrew Tate came by and started like talking locker room talk, if you guys remember, Donald Trump was saying, grab him by the pussy. Like if you're a rich guy, you can grab him by the pussy and they love it. These women want the attention of rich men. So obviously Andrew is in that world. When this guy comes by and says that when you're young, you're simping for these women, you're thinking that they love you the same way that you would love them. And it doesn't work that way. So I think that Andrew Tate coming in, saying all these things that you need to be a better man, that you need to court women a certain way. A man needs to be a leader in the household, especially when it comes to relationships. I do believe that America's problems can all be solved if the man steps up and starts becoming a man. So when Andrew Tate came around and started stating these things, it was like pornography for men. So when you have a lot of young men that are being raised without fathers, they're going to look at an Andrew Tate figure as somebody that's never told them this. This is why I believe that Andrew Tate was much more of a positive impact on society than he was a negative impact. And I get you, he has his flaws. Not every man is perfect. Even God in the Bible has used imperfect men to spread his message.
Do you want to add anything to that, Hassan?
I have 101 questions to ask him.
Amazing.
This is your show, Dr. Octavio, so I'll let you take it.
The problem with a lot of men listening to Andrew Tate is this. They're going to take the red pill approach. That's the issue. Of course, a man should be a provider and a protector. And to provide and protect, it means you have to build yourself up. All right? The problem with a lot of men is they get engaged in the hookup culture, they get lost in the hookup culture, and then they forget their purpose as men, which is to provide and protect. And that is the issue. If you look at both religions, if you look at Islam, and then if you look at Christianity, you will see that you're not even supposed to date women. If you go all the way back, how the Western world used to be, you would approach the father, you would speak to the father would speak to the daughter. Then if they agreed, then you would speak to the family of that man, and then they will meet up, they would decide a date for marriage, and then they will come together. And then the marriage would happen. That's how dating used to be, you know, and I'm talking about before 1940s, all right? This is how dating used to be. Even the black community used to be 98% married. Why? Because there was no hookup culture for you to engage in. And of course, we know that feminism is the one that brought up the hookup culture. And a lot of men forget to become the provider because of this hookup culture, because they are sexualized from a very, very young age. And so they give in to lust. When I listen to Andrew Tate, I do not see Andrew Tate bringing up what I'm bringing up right now. Yes, he's absolutely right in saying that we have to become providers and we have to be protectors and we have to become men. I agree with that. As a Christian, I have nothing against that. But what he doesn't address is the fact that men should not engage in the hookup culture at all. At all. And a lot of men listening to Andrew Tate, unfortunately, because they have been so sexualized already, what will happen is they'll think of Andrew Tate, oh, look at how many women he has around him. Look at how many cars he drives. Mm-hmm. So they're going to look at the fact that he has this lavish lifestyle. That's what they're going to look at. Instead of looking at the fact that they need to stop engaging with the hookup culture and focusing, you know, in finding a wife and so on and so forth.
See, I can agree with you on all of that sense. The problem with that is that this whole hookup culture has been decades in demand. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but you know how Andrew Tate talks about the Matrix. In fact, you guys were talking about the Matrix earlier before. And a lot of people can't define what exactly the Matrix is. Now, just to do a quick analysis on that, the Matrix is the lobbyists that go after politicians, support politicians, and then on top of that, the deep state, which is the politicians that are in the deep state that support this type of rhetoric, and then you have the mainstream media that pushes said propaganda, and then you have the globalists like your George Soros, your the guy from BlackRock, I forgot his name at the moment, but you have a lot of these people that are on the higher elites. That's the Matrix as a whole. Then on top of that, you might ask yourself, who controls the Matrix on a spiritual level? It's Satan. Satan is the one that controls the Matrix as a whole. So when you talk about the hookup culture, it's Satan's world at this point. Satan is the one that rules planet Earth, right? And he uses the Matrix to convert people to get their souls before Jesus comes back. So my thing is, when you talk about hookup culture, you're right. Men are the ones that allowed women to access particular points of view, like, for example, voting rights. They gave women the right to vote. During that time, the right to vote was a privilege. You had to have certain criterias in order to vote. That was a case to where it was weak beta males that allowed women to not only just vote, but go into the workplace and collude a lot of the government. Because when you have women in the workplace, that means you could tax both parties in the household. Because back in the day, it was only a one work household that can provide for the entire family. Now that you put women in the household, you can tax both of them. Thus, feminism was born. Women believed themselves to be equal to the man. Andrew Tate did not start this whole revolution. Andrew Tate saying hookup culture, etc. And I get you there, but it wasn't Andrew Tate. I believe it was beta males and Satan that rose up to this. Andrew Tate just adjusted, saying you need to build up your money and you need to stop simping for these women, because when you simp for these women, you're going to act like a guy that tends to respect women that you shouldn't respect. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are, until Andrew Tate start advocating for religious marriages, absolutely nothing will change. Because when people look at Andrew Tate, especially Western, morally degenerate people, when they look at Andrew Tate, he promotes himself as a person who lives a lavish lifestyle. He promotes himself as that type.
Sure.
And I've got nothing wrong with people who acquire money and they want to enjoy the money. But the thing is, you are a public figure, and this is how you portray yourself. Remember who you're portraying yourself to. You're portraying yourself to immoral people, or people that are morally degenerate, that people that have been beaten down by liberal feminist ideologies.
Can I jump? Okay, if I could sum up my impression of Andrew Tate into one sentence, it would be that he went from pimping young women to pimping young men. He presents himself as a solution to a problem that doesn't necessarily exist.
It does exist.
For example,
it does exist. It does exist.
Okay, maybe it does exist, but it's but our problem is more in our heads than it is, and he's certainly not the solution. He's just a salesperson who's promoting his business or whatever it may be. This, what's it called, real world, and just repeating the same message over and over again. You're weak. You're this. You're that. In a sense, diminishing the individual's self-worth, right? Rather than encouraging them to better themselves somehow, although good as they are in some cases, right? And he presents himself as a solution to ultimately no end. Become rich, become successful, become like me. You're pathetic, you're weak if you don't become wealthy. And no fabric of integrity being promoted. If he was promoting Christianity or Islam or something, I would understand.